Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever or wherever you're watching or listening to us. This is the Awesemo Nhl Dfs Strategy Show, and I am your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Joining me today on our hunt for the first of three mother boxes is our very own single entry cyborg, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, bud?
I stayed up very late watching Marty Jones and net, and I was up very early, so I'm a little tired. I'm a little wired, but
yeah, Josh looks to be in that spot right now where he knows he's really tired, but he's had a bunch of caffeine today, so the effects are kind of counterbalancing each other. But you were staying up late for good reason, right? You were saying before the show you had a really hot lineup, but Party Marty did Party Marty things in the third period.
Yeah, so I originally had Demko in net, and that game got canceled. So when that news came out that it's canceled, my options were Marty Jones, Cal Peterson, or Adin Hill. Now, Adin Hill, no, because I was Josh stacking the Avs, and I really as much as I like Peterson, I really believed in the Vegas Knights spot last night. So I plugged in Martin Jones for the first time this season. He had a shutout going through two periods. So I was like, you know what? I'll turn it on. And whoo, that was a bad idea. I had a chance to win the 40 if he got a shutout. He let up a goal early in the third. So I was like, okay, I still could get second. And then he let up a goal with 12 seconds left, which dropped me to fourth. But I'll take the fourth place finish. I finished like 45th in the 11. So I had I had like a 25x night, so I'll definitely take it.
Yeah, anytime you can get a 25x night, I don't think any complaints will be registered. Seemed like some people in our chat had a good night. I saw one person post earlier they had a 4 or 5x night, which is nice to see. You and I got a DM from Dave Oliver, Elway's Army on DraftKings. Looks like he took down the 3 max last night. He had broken Colorado 1 with Donskoy because you absolutely needed Donskoy last night. And he had San Jose 2 with Ullmark in net. Linus Ullmark took him to the promised land. The Buffalo Sabres, their first win in over a month, and he gets it in his winning lineup. So congrats, Dave Oliver, on that. Congrats to you, Josh, and to the winners last night. Let's hope we can have another good night like that. And it was a weird night because you brought up that cancellation between Calgary and Vancouver. And that's something we're going to have to watch for moving forward. It does Vancouver looks like they might have to take a pause like the Canadiens did there recently where they had to take, 10 days off or whatever. And those games may not be made up because Vancouver may not have games to play that are relevant at the end of the year. So something to keep an eye on. And yeah, the Avalanche went absolutely ballistic last night. You absolutely had to have at least some of them in your lineup to do well. 9-3 was the final. Jonas Donskoy had a first period hat trick. Gabriel Landeskog and Mikko Rantanen both had the 3-point bonus. Nathan MacKinnon, surprisingly, didn't really do anything, but it didn't really matter. If you had Colorado 1 plus Donskoy, you were well on your way to a good score. And McKinnon got fined $5,000 for throwing his helmet in one of the funniest replays I've seen in the NHL this year.
People are outraged about it. I was if you're outraged about that and you're fine with McDavid with the high elbow, you need to reevaluate. He hit him in the chest with his helmet, not like he launched it at his face. Come on.
Yeah, I was thinking, it was a Pittsburgh Steelers and Cincinnati Bengals game a couple of years ago, where a Bengals player swung his helmet at the Steelers player, had it in his hand and swung it full force into his head. Yeah. This wasn't McKinnon doing that. This is McKinnon picking up this helmet and slightly tossing it at the guy. It just looked hilarious. I think well worth the $5,000 if you're Nathan MacKinnon. Today we do have a very big show today. We have 9 games we have to get to, so we should get to those games. Before we do, just want to remind everybody that if you're not able to watch your favorite Awesemo shows on YouTube, almost all of our Awesemo YouTube shows are available through the Awesemo Podcast Network. We've got a podcast for every sport, and we're available on every major platform. So head on over to awesemo.com/podcast to check out the latest. Just leave a 5-star review on one of our podcasts with your Twitter handle or email address, and you'll be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. One winner will be awarded every Friday, and reviews are eligible. And every Friday, and reviews will be eligible to win for up to 1 year. So even if you put in one now, you could get one just in time for baseball season next year. So yeah, go ahead, awesemo.com/podcast to check out our latest podcast. And while you're here, if you could, one of the things you can do if you don't want to subscribe for a full year for NHL or something, one of the things you can do to support us here is like and subscribe. It really helps us grow the channel, keeps these shows coming free on near daily basis. I mean, we're up to basically 10 hours of content a day now. We're probably 2 years away from basically being CNN for sports for DFS over here. So just drop us a like and subscribe. Click the notification bell if you want to get notified whenever we go on the air. All right, let's dig into this slate a little bit. Let's get into this first game. We have the Pittsburgh Penguins with a 2.6 implied goal total. Going into Boston, the Bruins have a 2.9 implied goal total. I'm going to be honest with you off the hop here, Josh. When I was writing up the Power Plays article for Awesemo.com today, there really wasn't a lot that I loved from this game. And I don't think there was anybody I wrote up from this game for my Power Plays article itself. So obviously, I don't have a lot that I really love out of Pittsburgh and Boston, but maybe you have something different.
Not really. This game screams like 150 max. Like if you're having a whole gaggle of lineups, you have some exposure to this game. But Bergeron going into the Crosby matchup kind of is not great. Like I don't want to pay a ridiculous amount for a Boston one they haven't even been that good recently going into Crosby, which has been a good defensive line. So really, like Pitt 1, Boston 1 in 1 to 3, even 5 to 10 lineups, I'd probably be way under the field. I really wanted to get behind like Pittsburgh 2 because the Boston depth hasn't been very good, but I don't know. Like if you want to play McCann, Zucker, and Rodriguez, I guess that's an okay filler. They won't be very high owned. But really this game is an MME type thing. Maybe I'll have a couple one-offs, if in a couple lineups, like a one-off McCann since he's still on power play 1, or a Zucker because he's under 3K, or even maybe like a Charlie Coyle, like just grasping. Like if you're making a bunch of lineups and you need a couple one-offs, like Nick Ritchie at 3,800, I think is an okay one-off. But really, this game as a whole is an MME game and probably an under the field MME type of deal.
Yeah, like you said, Boston 1 hasn't been super good lately. So I think if I were to go to either of the top lines in this game, it would be Pittsburgh 1. But Boston 1 not playing well for 6 or 8 games or something like that doesn't mean they're going to keep not playing well. This is still one of the best lines in hockey. That's the kind of the scary thing here. I think if I were going to really do anything here, I'm kind of with you. It's more into the depth. I looked at the teams with their top lines off the ice in the month of March. For Boston with the top line off the ice, 48.6 expected goal share. For Pittsburgh, since Malkin went out, it's been almost 3 weeks now, over 57% expected goal share. So the Pittsburgh depth has actually been good since Malkin's absence, while Boston's depth has been almost nothing for a while now. And like I know David Krejci had a 3-point night a couple of games ago, but that doesn't necessarily, getting points and playing well aren't necessarily caused by each other. So I'm kind of digging a little bit more into the Pittsburgh depth here. Like I think I'd be dumping down to somebody like Frederick Gaudreau, like Zach Aston Reese. Like I think the third line kind of really makes sense here. But I'm not really stacking anything out of this game. I don't think it's a good matchup for either side. Both, Boston has a great penalty kill. Pittsburgh's power play isn't superb. So just not a whole lot here. I mean, I guess on defense, I don't mind Brian Dumoulin because he's 2,700 and he'll probably play over 20 minutes, but that's probably it for me.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Matheson's down to 2,800 as well, so I think he's in play as well. Even your boy Cody Ceci, if you need like almost a min price. Like there's some cheap defensemen that I think you can one off, but really, I don't want to pay 6,000 for Charlie McAvoy, 5,200 for Grzelcyk. And then I don't really want to dump down into the, Carlos, Zaboros, or Cliftons. If you want to play Jeremy Lauzon because he's on the top pair, like, and gets minutes, that's okay. But I'd probably rather play Dumoulin if that was the case.
Yeah, I'm with you. In on Dumoulin. Probably not going to start either goalie here, are you?
Probably not. No, because the total's low, but this has potential to be like a weird 4-3 game where no line really goes off and the goalies don't really hit value.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I'm out on both goalies. So with that being said, we can move along to the next game. There's going to be considerable interest in this game, I think, at least on one side. The New York Rangers have a 3.5 implied goal total. They're going into Buffalo. The Buffalo Sabres have a 2.4 implied goal total. By golly, the Buffalo Sabres did it. They finally did it last night. They laid the wood to Philadelphia 6-1. I was shocked to wake up and see Alain Vigneault still had his job, but that's another story for another day. Our top stacks tool right now isn't showing heavy ownership on the Rangers, but that was the first run. I imagine with the next run, that'll come up a little bit, probably closer to double digits. There's probably a lot to like up and down the Rangers lineup. So what do you like, Josh?
Yeah, so the top Rangers line's almost 20,000, which is kind of crazy because the past few games, it's been the second line doing the damage, but like I totally understand why they're really expensive in the spot. The Sabres are a terrible team. They even have more injuries now. I think there's someone got hurt last night, right? Was it Curtis Lazar?
Yeah, Curtis Lazar is out tonight. They're going to leave Sam Reinhart at center.
Yeah, so down the middle, they're Middlestat, Reinhart, and then it just gets messy. Like Riley Shahan, and then the Cody. Like it's just a bad situation. They're on a back-to-back, coming off a win, but you know the Flyers have looked hapless the past few weeks. So the Rangers have looked very good. I think the ownership on the Rangers is definitely going to come up, and I think there's really a case to be made for all three lines on the Rangers today. If you want to spend up for Rangers 1, I totally get it. The matchups don't really matter. I'm not really sure who they would match up. I would imagine the Hall, Middlestat, Thompson line is going to get Zibanejad, but we don't really know. It doesn't really matter. There's not really one line on the Sabres that is really going to affect how I want to attack this game. So I think if you want to spend up the top line, Rangers are fine. Even the second line has been great. Panarin's obviously their best player. Strome's been very good. And Capo Kakko has been playing much better of late. He's only 3,200 against secondary power play time. I think you can easily full stack that second line. Kakko makes that line much cheaper. I would imagine if people are like power play stacking, he's going to go overlooked. But he's someone you could definitely include for 3,200. And even this third line with Lafreniere, Hedl, and the GOAT, I guess I'll call him the GOAT. It's a super cheap filler line if you're trying to get up into your Bostons or your Vegas power play, something like that. They're a decent filler. And then on the Sabre side, I'm not sure if I really want to full stack anything. It's tough because the Rangers have been very good defensively. Igor's back. They are on a back-to-back. So really, if I was going to do anything, I may have, a one-off Casey Middlestat, something like that, or a two-man with like Middlestat and Hall, or like a two-man Olofsson with Reinhart. But really, I'm going to be under the field on the Sabres. Just a low total. I know they're at home. But if the Rangers are either going to get Ullmark on a back-to-back or Dustin Tokarski. So this is going to be a Rangers game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not in on Buffalo really anything here. Like you said, like Eichel out, Stahl traded, Cousins out, and Lazar out. Those are effectively their four centers. Like Sam Reinhart's playing center, and he hasn't played center since junior. Like Casey Middlestat's playing center, and he's not an NHLer, or at least he hasn't shown NHL capabilities up until now.
He's a winger. So he's like a bottom six winger.
Yeah, so like there's nothing to worry about from the Buffalo side for matchups. So from the Rangers side, like if you're playing 150 lineups, you're probably going to have all three lines in your mix somewhere. If you're not playing 150, if you're playing 20, if you're playing 3, or if you're playing 5 or something like that, you definitely have to cut down. You have to focus. So then you have to look to where I think you probably should dip down to the second line. Like if you're playing one line or 3 lines or 5 lines, I think Strome, Panarin, Kakko makes a ton of sense here. I wrote up Kakko for the Power Plays article this morning. He's having a really good season. Like I know the points, strictly speaking, haven't been there, but I think he has 3 goals in his last 5 games. His defensive metrics are actually off the charts, like great. He looked awful last year. He looks like a completely new player this year. That line together, 2.4 expected goals for per 60 minutes, 55 expected goal share, 4.3 goals per 60 minutes. Like they've just been outstanding. So I'm focusing more on the second line, Strome, Panarin, Kako. I'm going to 3-man stack them at times. I'm going to probably more 2-man stack them. Strome, Panarin, throw Adam Fox in on the blue line. But if you want to dump down to Rangers 3, I agree with you. I kind of like that Rangers 3. Like if you want to go get a super expensive line, like maybe you're on Pitt 1, or maybe you're even on Boston 1, or maybe you're on Chicago 1 or something like that, and you want a cheap line, I'm fine with Rangers 3. On the blue line, I think the Rangers have a lot of playable defensemen. I think they have 3 different playable defensemen. I'm using all 3. But this is the way I'm kind of doing it, is like I'm putting Fox in with my Rangers 2 stacks where possible. Where not possible, I'm going all the way down to Miller, and then I'm using Trouba as a one-off. What do you like for defenseman here?
Yeah, just real quick on Kako. So, like, I'm close to New York, so like I get a lot of Islanders fans just buzzing in my ear. So all these Islanders fans are like, oh, Kako's a bust, Kako's a bust. Barzal's the GOAT. When Kako's 20 years old, when Barzal was in his 20-year-old season, where was he? He was in the WHL. So, zoop. All right, moving on. I agree with you. Fox, if you're doing any kind of power play, I think after that, Trouba definitely makes sense. 4,300 is too cheap for him. He's not an elite hockey player, but he's a good fantasy player. And then if you want to dump down to Keandre or Miller, that's fine. And then on the Buffalo side, Ristolainen had a very good game yesterday. If you want to go back to him, that's fine. But really, I'm off the Sabres defenseman.
Okay, then I'm going to ask you about the Sabres goaltending, because Dustin Tokarski is starting in net tonight. It's not Linus Ullmark, and Tokarski's 6,800. Do you have the guts to go down to Dustin Tokarski?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like, there's a couple goalies under 7,000 that I consider. Merzlikins is one of them too. You have to consider these goalies under 7,000. I'm not saying go all in on them, but you do have it would. I don't want to say it'd be a mistake, because they easily can get lit up like a Christmas tree. But like, if you have 100 lineups, you want these goalies, these super cheap goalies that see volume, because like the Rangers could completely fall flat on their face tonight and lose 2-0 and have 41 shots. And if you don't have Tokarski, you're probably not going to hit the optimal lineup. So like, yeah, 150 lineups, I'd sprinkle in a little bit, but 1-3, I wouldn't make it a priority.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. 150 definitely would get him in, and I'm correlating Shesterkin in my Rangers lineups where I can. All right. Just want to let everybody know that today's show is sponsored by Jock Market. And if you haven't heard, Jock Market has turned fantasy sports into a stock exchange. Forget waiting until the end of the game to make money. Jock Market allows you to buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money, with guaranteed payouts for all shares at the end of each night. With daily markets for NBA, MLB, NHL, and PGA, you can make real money every hour, every minute, every second of any match or game. Use the pregame IPO to pick up shares of your favorite players and buy, sell, or hold during the game based on your analysis. Download the app to get started and use our exclusive Awesemo promo code Awesemo NHL20 for a $20 bonus on your first deposit. It's an exclusive offer only for the Awesemo community, so make sure to take advantage of it today. That's Awesemo NHL20 for a $20 bonus. And I saw a tweet from them earlier. They were just getting their baseball shares up. So MLB is ready to roll over on Jock Market now as well. So this is a good time to get in if you want to try different sports. Try Awesemo NHL20 as your promo code over on Jock Market for a $20 bonus. All right. Moving along to the next game, we have the Washington Capitals with a 2.6 implied goal total going into New York to face the Islanders. The Islanders have a 2.9 implied goal total. I think the big note for me here was that Anthony Beauvillier had been moved back up to the Brock Nelson, Josh Bailey line. That leaves Leo Komarov with Matt Barzal and Jordan Eberle, and Ross Johnston with Jean-Gabriel Pageau and Oliver Wahlstrom. Two pretty good defensive teams, 2 low totals. What do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, I don't really like much from this game. It's just that I under do some weird matching at home. Like the Barzal line's probably going to go out against the Eller line. The Nelson line's probably going to get the Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Oshie line. So I kind of like the Islanders' second line. It's more of an MME play for me. I think this game as a whole is kind of an MME play. But I do really like the combo of JG Pageau and Wahlstrom. They're going to get Backstrom, Sheary, Oshie, or excuse me, not Oshie. Wilson, Backstrom, Wilson, Sheary. I think that matchup is exploitable. JG Pageau and Wahlstrom have been very good. They're on the secondary power play unit. They're not going to be high owned. they're 8,700 for the two of them, which is, getting up there because Wahlstrom for a while was down like 2,800 because his minutes were so low, but his minutes are slowly creeping up. If it's a close game, JG Pajero is going to get his minutes. So I kind of like the Islanders second line. I kind of like the Islanders third line. I'd full stack the second line. I wouldn't put, if you want to leave off Ross Johnston on the third line, that is perfectly acceptable. Kind of off the top line. I think, on the Caps, if you want to put in the top line in MME, that's fine. But really, the Caps for me is MME. Islanders would be more like, I would consider them if I had like 3 to 10, but really they're more like 20 to 150 as well.
Yeah, I just want to make note here of a few things why I don't have a ton of interest in this game. Both teams bottom half in the NHL by time shorthanded, and both bottom 5 by power play opportunities. So I wouldn't expect a whole bunch of special teams here in this game. And they are 4th and 6th by expected goals against in March at 5-on-5, and 7th and 8th in expected goals against on the penalty kill in March. So whether 5-on-5, whether on the penalty kill, these are 2 top 10 teams of late defensively, and they don't take penalties. Like it just, anything can happen in hockey, but it just screams bad situation, bad spot for both teams. But one thing I will say is I'm going to have some of that Islanders 2 line, Beauvillier, Nelson, and Bailey. They should get a fair amount of the Washington top line in matching. And the Washington top line has been playing at a very, very high pace this year. We're talking 3.1 expected goals per 60 minutes and 2.6 expected goals against. Like that's 5.7 expected goals per 60 minutes, which if you know how expected goals works, that's very, very high. So if Washington is willing to trade chances, I'm willing to take a stab on what should be a low-owned Islanders 2 line. On the blue line, I don't have anything from Washington. I don't mind Orlov, I guess, because he's still kind of cheap and he's getting his minutes. For the Islanders, I'm basically just correlating Pulock, and that's about it. There isn't much for D-men I like.
Yeah, Noah Dobson's going to be back tonight, I believe, but that's kind of a wait and see. This isn't the best spot. I agree with you, Orlov, if you needed someone around 3K, but Carlson, if you're doing some type of power play, but it's not the best spot. So I think, I'm looking elsewhere for defensemen.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do like Varlamov at net here tonight. I have him in a lot of correlated lineups. Do you have any takes about either of the goalies here?
I like both goalies. Samsonov, if he's confirmed. I think it's probably going to be Samsonov, right? He's probable.
Yeah.
I like Samsonov. I like if you have a lean, go them. But if you're correlating, they both make sense for main GPPs.
Yep. I hear that. All right, let's move it along to our next game. Columbus Blue Jackets with a 2.2 implied goal total going into Tampa Bay. The Bolts have a 3.3 implied goal total. One thing I want to make note of here is we thought last game that Tampa's third line, because Tampa's third line had been taking top lines from the opposition. That didn't happen in their last game. They basically matched the third line up against Tessier and Foligno pretty much all game, which left Tampa's top 6 against Columbus's top 6, and Columbus's top 6 ain't good. I have a load of interest in the Lightning tonight. I assume you do too. What do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, I do like Tampa tonight. I also like Merzlikins. Just throwing that out there, we'll get to him. I kind of like the second line better than the top line. I don't know. Point Palat makes sense, but like Tyler Johnson on that line, I don't know. He's kind of in the twilight of his career. So I kind of want to, Cirelli, Stamkos. Like, yeah, Stamkos maybe he's lost a step, but he's still, with Kucherov out, he's probably still their best player. So that's where I want to be on that second line. If you want to stack the first line, that's perfectly fine. They're about the same in ownership. So either acceptable. I lean towards the second line. If you want to use that third line, I think that's an acceptable filler. They are going to get the Texier, Foligno, Jenner line, which is probably their best defensive line. So I'd maybe scale back a little bit more than I normally would. like if they're going up against the Stenlund Domi line, then yeah, definitely be on Tampa 3. So that's why I kind of want to be, as much as I like Tampa 2, like Tampa 1 going against Stenlund Domi line, like as much as I don't like Tyler Johnson, like I want to go against the line with Line on it. It's kind of like how, Patty Marleau was on the Sharks too. Like he's one of those guys who just not good defensively. So Tampa totally makes sense. Tampa 1 with going against Line A. I like Tampa 2 more just as the full line, but the first line's in a better matchup. On the Blue Jackets side, I'm usually under the field on the Blue Jackets. This is a tough one. 2.2 total. Torts, can go full blender. You just don't know. If I had to go to a line, I wanted it to be the Jenner Texier Foligno line, but if they're going to get the Gord Coleman Gaudreau matchup, it's just not great. So I'm probably going to be off the Jackets tonight, except for maybe a Jones or Werenski or a one-off like Atkinson, something like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that on the Columbus side because I wrote up Oliver Bjorkstrand this morning in the PP article. Like my argument was that it seems like Bjorkstrand is just impervious just to how bad that team is offensively around him. Like he has 13 goals and 30 points this year on that team with no power play, with little power play production to speak of. So like Bjorkstrand, I think is fine as a one-off because he's one of the few guys whose time on ice is actually relatively stable. Werenski down at 4,400. Based off his history, I think he's fine to use, but I'm with you. I'm not stacking any lines here from Columbus. I think this is all about Tampa Bay for me. More focusing on Killorn, Cirelli, Stamkos. They're probably going to go up a fair amount against the Rozovic Atkinson line. And Rozovic and Atkinson this year have not been good together. 40.5% expected goals for together. That's not good at all. Going up against Stamkos, Killorn, Cirelli, and those guys, it's going to be a problem for them. Tampa Bay is pretty much just going to run out their top 6 against the opposing Columbus top 6. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. I'm not super focusing on matchups, but as long as they get either of the top 2 lines, if you get Domi and Line A, it's a good matchup. If you get Rozovic and Atkinson, it's a good matchup. It doesn't really matter which lines they get. I'm just focusing more on Killorn, Cirelli, Stamkos for my stacks here tonight, especially where Stamkos' prices come down. He's stayed under 7K now. So where his prices stayed low, I like that. On defense, one guy I find myself mixing in from time to time is Mikhail Sergachev. Like Ryan McDonagh is going to be back tonight, so that should cut into Sergachev's minutes a little bit. But even before McDonagh went out, Sergachev was regularly playing like 22, 23, 24 minutes. And with Columbus not taking a ton of penalties, I think there's a case to be made that you don't really need to go all the way up to Hedman in your Tampa stacks tonight, that you're more than fine stacking someone like Sergachev or even McDonagh. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree, because if you're going to like power play stack the Lightning and put in Hedman, you're going to be really hampered after that because Hedman's so expensive. I think he's the most expensive person on the Lightning tonight. So yeah, Sergachev's been playing great minutes. He's 4,800. It's going to be at least half the ownership of Hedman. So I agree. Even if McDonagh comes back and Sergachev plays 19, 20, 21 minutes instead of 22, 23, 24, I think that's perfectly fine. And then on the Columbus side, outside of Werenski and Jones, if you want to go to Savard, I think that's fine. But really, defenseman Werenski, Jones. If you want to pay for Hedman, fine. Sergachev's my favorite play on the Lightning, and then dump down to Savard.
Yep. Okay, I like that. And you said it might be Mr. Lickens night, is it?
For me, it is. Listen, like Lickens kind of falls into that Cal Peterson category for me. Like the Kings are just a surprising story anyway, because they're way better than I thought. Like, but early on in the season, you're like, oh, the Kings are bad, but Peterson's been playing good. Whereas Lickens is the better goalie on Columbus. He's better than Korpisalo, in my opinion. He's under 7,000. He's going to see a ton of volume because the Jackets, lines as they're constituted aren't very good defensively. So hopefully, he throws it back to the playoff series where he had that crazy, that was Korpisalo had that game. But either way, like he could possibly see 40 shots tonight. So hopefully he doesn't let in, 5 or 6. If he lets in 3 and he still loses, I'll take the shot bonus and run. But for that price, I think you should have a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. I even have him in a couple in my 20 max, in my 20 lineups. So don't mind Mr. Lickens here tonight. All right, let's get to our next game. I think this is a replay from a couple nights ago. Detroit has a 2.3 implied goal total going into Florida. The Panthers have a 3.3 implied goal total. Thomas Greiss is probably going to start, considering Jonathan Bernier isn't ready to go, and Calvin Pickard didn't even make it out of the first period of the last game. Chris Driedger already confirmed for the Panthers. I think, our top stacks tool right now is showing a lot of ownership on the Panthers. I think maybe almost too much ownership, but I still agree that I think the Florida top line is going to be one of the chalkiest lines of the night. That kind of scares me, considering there's going to be no Alexander Barkov and no Aaron Ekblad again. Like, I had no problem playing Brett Connolly when he was 3%. I might have a little bit of problem playing Brett Connolly if he's like 17% on a 9-game slate. So I think there may be ownership concerns here, Josh, but maybe those ownership concerns aren't enough to get you off of Florida.
Yeah, I mean, where's Jake at, man? Wenberg's projected at 21%. He's busy shotgunning White Claws in Alabama. First of all, who's on vacation in Alabama? But that's a story for another time. We'll rag on him when he gets back. Sorry, I should have done it to his face. But, man, this top line projected over 20%. Huberdeau, I still think, is a great play, 7,400. He's been lights out since Barkov has gone out. Brett Connolly, I think, is fine to pair with him. But, like, I don't want to play 4K Alex Wenberg for 21%. Like, I get it. Right, they're going against Detroit. They're going against Greiss. It is what it is. So, like, I think I dumped down to the second line. I know I had I wasn't on a Kai Berry the other night, but I think if this second line for Hagee, Duclair, they're going to come in way lower owned than the top line. I think you can go back to the second line. I even don't mind this third line, Veterano, Lemico, and Tippett. I think you can go there, because as you go down the Red Wings, it doesn't get better; it just gets worse. And if you took Huberdeau out of the lineup, which I know is kind of unfair to say, but like, if Huberdeau wasn't in tonight, right, and like Verhaeghe, Duclair, that could be the top line. Veterano, Tippett could be, like, these lines are interchangeable. So if you're going to get the depth of Detroit, I think you can play these second and third lines. If you want to eat the chalk on the top line, go ahead. It's not something I want to do. I'm going to be under the field on them in my limited entries, just because, like, Wenberg 21%. Like, you really need a ceiling game out of him to hit like he just doesn't shoot. Like, if he has 2 goals, yeah, that'll be fine. But more than likely, he's going to have like a shot on goal, a block, and an assist. That's not going to pay off at 21%. You're going to need that elsewhere. So for me, I like Florida 2. I like Florida 3. And on the Detroit side, without Barkov and without Ekblad, I think there is some merit to go to this top line. Not a lot. Like, I'm not saying like, yeah, let's go 19 of 20, but I think, maybe 2 or 3 out of 20 for 20 max in this top line. Before Barkov went out, the Wenberg, Huberdeau, Hornquist line was not very good defensively. So I think there is some merit to going to this Detroit top line. But for me, if I was ranking it, I'm going Florida 2, Florida 3, Florida 1, even though they're in the best matchup. It's just an ownership fade for me, and then Detroit 1.
Yeah, I just want to mention Florida's played 5 games now without Barkov, and their underlying metrics have been pretty average in every respect. Average expected goals for, average expected goals against, which is not good for them, because they were truly one of the 5 or 6 best teams up until Barkov and Ekblad got injured. So Detroit won. I'm glad you mentioned them, because they've been pretty good in a small sample. I know I've been talking junk about them not putting their lines together, but at least Zadina, Larkin, and Fabry is something to work with. And like, okay, Florida won the last game 4-1. They scored 3 goals on Calvin Pickard, who I told you, like I said here on this show, he's the worst goalie in hockey. Like, it wasn't a surprise that they scored 3 goals on him. Detroit put up 36 shots. Like, Bobrovsky stood on his head. That was the only reason Detroit didn't fill the net. Like, this, Florida without Barkov, without Ekblad, like you said, not as strong a team. So I do like Detroit 1 here tonight. I'm not going overboard. I'm probably going to have 1 or 2 out of my 20 lineups. I'm not in as much on Florida, believe it or not. I think the ownership is just going to be way too out of control, especially at the top of the lineup. And they may go 11 forwards, 7 defensemen, which means that your line combinations may get thrown into disarray anyway. So I'm in more on Detroit 1 than anything here. On the blue line, Gustav Forsling was up to 21 minutes, even though they had 7 defensemen. I think he's going to get his minutes regardless. He's one of my favorite defensemen out of this game.
Yeah, I agree. He's only 3,800 too, so he's going to get – he's still, DFS darling for us, so – if you want to play Yandel, that's fine. He just doesn't do anything for me. He's kind of like Josh Morrissey. So I'm Gustav Forsling. If you want to pay it for Uyghur at 4,700, I think that's decent as well. But really, that's about it. And on the Detroit side, if you want to play Hronik with your Detroit 1, sure. But other than that, I'm probably not one-offing anybody.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm playing some Grice at 7,100. I'm not playing any Dreger at 8,400. Any Grice interest?
Yeah, that 6,500 to 7,200 range with goalies I see volume is always going to pique my interest. I say it all the time. So yeah, I would consider Grice. He's in that Mr. Lickens and Tokarski zone for me.
Yeah, Tokarski I think would be a distant third for me out of that group. Yeah. I see we have a new member to Team Awesemo, so I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Welcome, Devon, to Team Awesemo. First day of MLB. I'm excited for MLB season. And because today is April 1st, it's MLB opening day. And we have a deal for you here at Awesemo. Get your first 9 days of Awesemo Plus MLB for only $9 when you use the promo code STARTING9. That's STARTING9 with the numeral 9. This gives you access to everything we have to offer for MLB DFS, including player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, lineup builder, and our premium Slack channel. This offer is valid through April 9th. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus MLB today with the promo code STARTING9 for 9 days of Awesemo MLB Plus for only $9. All right, we've got about 15 minutes. We got 4 games to get through, so let's get through these. We have Montreal going into Ottawa. The Habs have a 3.3 implied goal total. The Sens have a 2.4 implied goal total. The Habs looked good a couple nights ago coming off their little break. They shut out Edmonton 4-0. Ottawa is coming off a little break of their own. I don't think they played in 6 days now, but they're running back the same lineup that they did before the break, which means Kachuk Norris on the top line with Dadonov and so on down. Montreal is probably going to run back the same lineup they did a couple nights ago. The only change would be Jake Allen in net. Don't think we're going to get low ownership Montreal 1 like we did last time. We had them as one of the most over leveraged lines on the entire slate. But Montreal is obviously still going to draw ownership. It's Ottawa. But there might be something on both sides here. So what do you like?
Yeah, I think you just wanted to say Chuck Norris.
I did.
I really like this Montreal top line tonight. They're probably going to get the White Paul Brown matchup. That's just, Montreal. I don't know how many times with you or all the times with Jake, like, Montreal 1 is one of the best 5-on-5 teams in hockey. They're not going to have many bad matchups 5-on-5. This is a plus matchup for them. They're still relatively cheap. Gallagher's up to 6,500, but Deneau is 3,700, Tatar 4,500, so it's manageable. I know they're over leveraged, but this is a very good spot for them. The Chuck Norris line is going to probably see the Suzuki Drouin, so I'm probably a little bit off them a little bit. Like, I still think you can go to them. They're fully correlated on the power play, so I think you can play them. But really, Montreal 1 is my favorite line on Montreal. I don't even mind dumping down to this third line. Kotkaniemi had a really good game the other night. Arturi Lehkonen had a pretty good game. They're super cheap. If they're a decent filler for those cheap or for the expensive stuff. So I think you can dip down to them a little bit. And then on the Senator side, I think if you want to play that Kachuk line, I think you can. But for me, I think my favorite would be the Stützle-Batherson combo. I think you put him in with Shabbat. because as good as Montreal's been, they still take a lot of penalties, and their penalty kill isn't great. So Stützle Batherson combo I like, and then Montreal one's by far my favorite line in this game.
Yeah, I do like Montreal one a lot. Like I said, they might be over leveraged, so might have to get a little bit different with your stacks and how you go about them. I like the Ottawa one side a lot more here. We talked, I believe, in the last show that Montreal's second line really hadn't been playing well through the month of March. Now they just got their break, so maybe they're a little bit rejuvenated. But Norris and Tkachuk have been playing relatively well together. And since it's been 6 games since they put Josh Norris up with Brady Tkachuk, and in those 6 games, he has 3 goals in 15 shots, averaging nearly 18 minutes a night. So I really do like that Ottawa top line here in this game. Wrote up Thomas Chabot as one of my defensemen to use. Honestly, there just really aren't a lot of defensemen out of this particular game that I like, which feels weird because there should be a lot of defense. Like, I guess Zaitsev at 3,800 makes sense because he could be a shot blocking machine.
Yeah, and then I don't know, on the Montreal side, it's kind of weird. Like, if you want to play Kulak at min price, I think that's okay, but I don't want to pay 6,300 for Petrie. If you want to pay 5,300 for Weber, that's fine. I definitely would find the 300 to pay 60 or 5,600 for Chabot. So I'd say if I like you want to play my boy Zub for min price, I think that's fine. But really, I'm looking elsewhere tonight for defensemen.
Yeah, I'm with you. In net, we as I said, Jake Allen is projected to start. Don't know who's starting for Ottawa because the Sens did activate Matt Murray off the IR. It may not be him because they might want to give him some more practice, but I won't ask your opinion on an Ottawa goalie because we don't have one just yet. Would you play Jake Allen at 8K?
I would consider it if I was spending up, in a correlated Montreal lineup. I don't think I would one off Jake Allen.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that. All right, move to our next game. Another game that we saw a couple nights ago. We had the Carolina Hurricanes with a 3.2 implied goal total going into Chicago. The Blackhawks have a 2.5 implied goal total. I guess the big note for me is that I thought Vinny Trocheck would get back to the top power play unit. He didn't. He stayed on the second power play unit, so it's still Jordan Staal, Natchez, Svechnikov, Aho on the top power play unit for Carolina. I think there might be something on both sides here, Josh. So why don't you tell us what you like from Carolina first and then move to Chicago?
Carolina, I'm all over the second line. I really like them tonight. Svechnikov, Trocheck, Jesper Fast. Fast has been priced, so like it's weird because like there's a lot of these lines with third wheels. Like you could say like Brock McGinn, quote unquote. I like Fast. Like he's not going to hurt you. He's a competent player. Like he's not just some guy up there. And he's been priced. He gets secondary power play time with Trocheck. Svechnikov's on the top power play. They're going to get the Kampf, Hagel, Kubalik line. So that's a very good matchup. And then if you want to go to that top line, it's perfectly fine. They're going to get the Kane DeBrincat stuff, which is weird because like I'm always on Kane DeBrincat, but they're always super chalky, and tonight they're not. So I kind of like them. They're expensive, so I kind of get why the ownership is going to be low tonight because Carolina is a good defensive team, but anytime you can get a Kane DeBrincat combo at low ownership, it piques my interest. So I think you can go there tonight. I think honestly, like I know I see the ownership low right now, but I think this Chicago third line is going to be pretty popular filler. Just because like, Kirby Dach is I don't want to say like a well-known name, but he's probably going to end up being their top line center of the future. Dylan Strome's there. Everyone knows, the Stromes, and then Matthias Janmark's not exactly, some slouch. He's not a great player, but he's competent and they're cheap. So I think, there's going to be some mild interest on that third line. But for me, really, this is Carolina 2, Carolina 1, if you want to do it. Carolina power play is fine. And then, the Blackhawks top line and a little bit of the filler third line.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Hawks top line because I put a couple of them in once I saw the ownership. We have Patrick Kane at 3% ownership. Even if that comes up to like 5% or whatever, I will take that at home on a 9-game slate all day. So I'm going to make sure I have a couple DeBrincat Kane lines out of my 20. With you on Carolina too. Trocheck and Svech have been very good together in the past and this year. I assume they're going to keep that going here tonight against a Chicago team whose defensive numbers have really slipped over the last month or so. This isn't the same team that it was, back in mid-February or whatever. Connor Murphy played 26 minutes last game. I guess he makes an option on the blue line. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. He's kind of like that Nikita Zaitsev type player. I think Connor Murphy is there. Really, I don't really like much else on the Blackhawks for that. If you want to pay it for Dougie, he's 7,400. That's kind of really expensive, but I think if you're doing any kind of power play stack, I think you have to include him. You want to dump down to Brady Shea, perfectly fine. Brett Pesce's kind of in that Connor Murphy range, so I think you could do that. Same with Jacob Slavin, but really it's Connor Murphy, Dougie, or Shea for me.
Yeah, I agree actually on all three of those players. That's kind of the way I was looking at the defenseman here. So glad we agree on that. We have 2 giveaways going on right now. Check out our first ever NBA Top Shot giveaway pinned on Awesemo_com. That's our main Twitter handle. Thanks to our guy News God, we are offering up a Jonas Valanciunas Top Shot for 1 lucky winner. Just complete the steps listed on that pinned tweet over at Awesemo_com on Twitter in order to be eligible. We also have an MLB opening day giveaway pinned on our Awesemo MLB handle. Predict which pitcher has the most strikeouts on opening day. You can win a free year of Awesemo Plus MLB. I know the game's just started, so I don't know if you're allowed to use Garrett Cole or not. He's off to a very good start. But make sure to like and follow Awesemo MLB and Awesemo_com to be eligible. Good luck. And because we always have free stuff up on the site, today is no different. Today we have NBA and NHL player projections. So if you hear us talking about some players on the show and you want to see what he's projected for tonight, you can, even if you're not subscribed. You can just head on over. We have NHL player projections up for free on the site, awesemo.com for today. All right, 2 more games to get through. We got about 5 or so minutes to get through them. So let's get to the first one. Dallas has a 2.9 implied goal total going into Nashville. The Predators have a 2.7 implied goal total. Anton Hudobin already confirmed for the Stars. I think it'll be Saros for the Predators, but he's not confirmed to start yet. What do you like, Josh?
I like the Dallas top line, fully correlated on the power play. They're going to be, I would imagine, pretty moderately popular just because Roope Hintz has been very good recently. I know he's been a game time to sit. Like, you kind of have to make sure he's in first. So maybe that keeps the ownership down because it's not a 7 o'clock lock. But, Jason Robertson is going to be popular. Everyone knows who he is now. The secret's out on him. His price reflects that, 5,200. But Pavelski, 6,600, like as a top line, fully correlated. That's not wildly expensive. The Nashville matchup is okay. I kind of think this is an MME game. Like, if you want to play Dallas and Dallas 1-3, I think that's fine. But there's a case to be made to fade him in a limited amount of lineups on the road against Saros. I like Dallas 1. I do like Dallas 2 as well. I think they're a decent filler. They're cheap. They correlate on the second power play. Ben, Faska, Guryanov. They're a decent filler. I think a good MME filler. And then on the Predator side, if you want to go to the top line, that's fine. I'm probably going to be pretty much off the Predators tonight, except maybe for some Yossi, maybe some Tolvanen one-offs or a Granlund one-off here and there. But really, my interest is on the Dallas side for MME.
Yeah, I have a lot of interest in the Dallas second line in particular. Faxa, Guryanov, Ben. As you mentioned, all 3 guys correlated on the second power play unit. As I mentioned on the last show, Nashville's penalty kill really slid in March, especially since Ryan Ellis's injury. So I think Dallas has a chance to get back on the train here tonight. And that's another reason why I wrote up Esa Lindell for the Power Plays article this morning. It's available for free to read over on Awesemo.com for anybody that wants to check it out. Wrote up Esa Lindell this morning for the Power Plays article because he's on Power Play 2 and he's probably going to play over 20 minutes with that fully correlated second Stars line. And they're going to miss a lot of the Yossi Fabro pairing. And with Ryan Ellis still out, like Ekholm's a good defenseman, but he can't carry 2 pairs by himself. So I think Ben Faxa-Gurianov gets some good matchups in this game. So I'm focusing more on Dallas. And because of that, Dallas too. And because of that, I have more Lindell than anything. Defensemen in this game, defensemen and goalies, I think I'm just correlating. There's no one I'm really one-offing here.
Yeah, I agree. If you want to one-off Jamie Alexiak, I can't go through a show with Dallas without mentioning Jamie Alexiak, so I think he's a fair one-off.
Yeah, never mind the big rig. Jamie Alexiak, fine to use in your lineups for today. All right. One final game to get to, pretty important game. Two teams that played last night but didn't play each other, which is a rarity. It's a back-to-back for both teams, but not for each other. We have Minnesota with a 2.4 implied goal total going into Vegas. Vegas has a 2.6 implied goal total. The big note here is Chandler Stevenson took an elbowing major and got kicked out last night. And he has a hearing today with the league, so I assume he's not going to be playing tonight. Tomas Nosek played a bunch on the top line with Pacioretty and Stone after Stevenson was ejected, but obviously they're going to call somebody up. I assume it's going to be Tanner Glass. Yeah, imagine they call up Tanner Glass. They're probably going to call up Cody Glass. It's just a matter of where they fit as centers. But here's the trick to tonight, especially on DraftKings. If you look at the Vegas centers tonight, Tomas Nosek comes in at 2,900, Nicholas Roy at 2,500, and Cody Glass at 2,500. I think it's going to be one of those three centering the top line. So I would just build your line. If you're going to use Vegas 1, I would just build your lineups with Tomas Nosek. And then if you have to drop down, you have the money to do it, to go to Roy or Glass. All right, that's my little spiel. What do you like out of this game?
Yeah, so Vegas is home, and so they've been matching the Carlson line against the top comp. So if they're going to get the Kaprizov, Ras, Zuccarello matchup, I really like the second line. They fully correlate. They're not going to be 25% like they were last night. This total seems low. Like I don't know, they're good teams, but it just seems low. I would think it would at least be a 5.5, but having it a 5 is kind of weird. So it's gonna depress the ownership a little bit. But I think you can go to the second line tonight, and I kind of want to wait and see on the top line who's going to be. Like I have Glass penciled in. They're going to get the Hartman, Fiala, Johansson line, which is okay. Like I really like that line a lot better with Stevenson there. Glass has been very underwhelming so far this season, but I still think if you want to go to a Pacioretty Stone duo, I think that's fine. But really, this is about Vegas 2 for me. On the Minnesota side, I'm kind of off. I'm probably going to fade them for the most part. If you want to go back to that second line, because the defensive numbers with Pacioretty, Stone, with Glass up there aren't as good, I think you can take a little stab on them. They're still relatively cheap. And even if you want to use this Greenway, Eric Sneck, Bonino line, if they're going to get the depth of Vegas, I think you can do that. Bonino's on power play 1 now, I believe. He's 2,900. I think, he's a very good one-off. But other than that, I think, I'm probably going to be pretty light on this game.
I'll say quickly, I'm heavy on Vegas 1 because I think people are going to stay away from them because of that uncertainty. But like I said, I'm going to be making my lineups with Nosek in Vegas 1 and then drop down to somebody like Glass or Roy if that ends up being their center tonight. We'll find out when lineups hit, or when warm-ups hit. Josh, I'm going to ask you for your hat trick pick here shortly. I'm going to go. My hat trick pick tonight is going to be Brady Tkachuk. What do you think?
I'm going Artemi Panarin.
Oh, Artemi Panarin. All right. Well, there we go. Artemi Panarin and Brady Tkachuk are our hat trick picks for tonight. For our super producer, Tyler Zander, for Mr. Cyborg himself, Joshua Harris, this is Michael Clifford, a.k.a. Slim Cliffy, saying good luck tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.